Greetings, everybody. Hello, it is Pseudo. Welcome to the Datamine on MMOBuff.TV. I am joined by, well, my normal host, Chris Spikey. Say hi.
Hi.
And I am joined by a guest who said, you know what? I really like it here. And the chair is very comfortable, and you actually bring me drinks. And therefore, we have our next host. Go ahead. Say hi, Andy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andy. I'm not Andy. I'm Adam or DJ.
I'll go. Shall I just go now?
You'll get your coat? Yeah. No, don't worry about it. Well, anyway, welcome to another edition of the Datamine. I am back, thank goodness. However, I'm not working on 100% level, so I may let these guys ramble a little bit depending upon where I happen to be on a health level. But other than that, we are here to talk about independent game development from independent game developers. And boy, do we have one hell of a whopper of a topic for you guys today. Why? Because we're going to be discussing VR integration into games. Because this seems to be a trend. And I use bunny ears here because honestly...
Bunny ears? What is your... That's bunny ears? What's wrong with your phrases?
This is sarcasm quotes.
The bunny ears are known as sarcasm
inverted commas.
Inverted.
Yeah.
Great. Now
Bunny
we're going to get into a
ears would have to be
discussion.
like this.
See, I've got bunny ears, but I'm not putting them on because we're going to try to stay a little professional today. Don't need to be putting people into a seizure from last night. Holy cow. But anyway, or not last night, but Tuesday. So anyway, we're going to start off with little stories that we have of experience with VR. And I have experience with VR. I know these two have their own unique experiences with VR in their own right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with Chris. What experiences have you had with any VR technology, be it Oculus or anything else? Because there's tons out there.
No, I have purposefully avoided Oculus at the moment because I know what I'm like. And I would want, if I tried one at a convention, I went to... Replay in Blackpool. They do retro kind of shows a lot across the country, and they had it there, and that's the only place I've been where they actually had it.
That was me running that, you know that, don't you?
Yeah, you said that.
My Oculus Rift in the corner.
I purposely did not queue up. There was only a small queue because I knew that I would want one immediately, and I would waste loads of time with it, playing around, trying to get it working in my game, and then going, actually, it doesn't work for my game, or I haven't got the time, or I don't want to implement it. My only other experiences with VR is I tried one back, oh god, I can't remember the year, but it was in the 90s sometime, and it was in an arcade, and it was one of these ones that you had a kind of circular area to stand in, and you had a little control pad, and you put the helmet on. And I remember being amazed by it, but it was something like £5 for about 20 seconds on it. It was ridiculously expensive, and I loved it, but I was a kid, you know. Now I'm a bit older, I'm a little bit more sensible with what I should and shouldn't try out. So that's why that's basically my experience.
I have to say, those old VR headsets are probably Oculus's biggest problem. So what you're talking about was either a VFX1 or virtuality. So they were about this big. So you had they had CRTs, so you're talking miniature televisions strapped to the front of your head, and it was so heavy and off balance that you needed a second one at the back to counterbalance. So you put it on, and then your head was being squashed down.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember that much because I was a child. So.
And the other thing is, I said weight. So at that point, you could only wear it for a brief period of time, and quite a lot of them had a cable to hold some of the weight upwards. The Oculus, so this is a Gen 2 Oculus, by comparison, this weighs about 1/5 of what my motorbike helmet weighs, and I will wear my motorbike helmet for 8 hours straight with no problems. These things, you could wear them the whole time with no issues whatsoever. They are lightweight and comfortable and glorious. And
they're continuously improving them as well.
Yes, and everything that they weren't in the 90s, and I think that's Oculus's. That's going to be one of their really big things. Is anyone who ever used one in the 90s will go, oh, they're a bit rubbish, and then you go, yeah, and your mobile phone was this big in the 90s as well. Technology's moved on a long, long way in, oh God, 20 years. Yeah.
You also look at something like the Morpheus. I don't think anyone's tried one of them yet. I'm not sure if they've been out in display. Has anyone?
They've been at a whole bunch of shows. Yeah, loads of people have tried them out. Yeah.
Because I know that they look more like some headphones, you know, like a headset you'd put on with. They look really, really light. They look like they'll break if you stand on them. I don't know if they are.
Well, Sony have been doing VR headsets since at least 1997, and they shipped them as something you could plug into your mythical computer that could drive video, because they didn't exist back then, but you plug it into like a DVD player, and they shipped them as a way of watching a 60-inch screen. Obviously, the screen was actually about this big.
Yeah.
So they've been
Aspect
doing
ratio.
it for many, many years. But there was no stereoscopic or anything, but they've been making these for a huge amount of time. And the reason the Morpheus has come about is because Sony have a console called the PlayStation. The PlayStation has a competitor called the Xbox. These things are identical. Don't believe all the crap you hear about, oh my god, this one's clocked like 9% faster, therefore the memory. It makes no appreciable difference. So Sony and Microsoft are fighting to find anything to differentiate themselves. Microsoft have got the Kinect, no one gives a shit. The Xbox has got Smart Glass, and really nobody gives a shit about that.
I disagree there. I disagree there. Everyone gives a shit for about 5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
For about 5 minutes, and then the novelty wears off. I've got one myself. I got the first generation, and I'll probably use it for capturing, for the game dev stuff. That'll probably what I'll end up using it for, basic capturing.
But Sony tried to buy Oculus, and Oculus didn't want to. Partly they weren't being offered enough money, and partly, and this is important, the Facebook buyout, Sony wanted absolute control. They said, we want to buy this, it wants it to be ours. And Oculus's mission, their goal, is to give VR to the masses. It's not just to give it to Sony people or Facebook people. So what happened is the deal with Sony fell through. Oculus went, we're not interested. They went their own way. Then Facebook bought them. So Sony has then essentially repurposed their virtual cinema headsets as motion trackers. So that's where the Morpheus came from. That's why we've got it. And so Sony are desperate to differentiate their console. And I think, to be quite frank, they're failing miserably, and so are Microsoft. So,
Gosh. Right. So what we're going to now have is a little story time from me. My experience with VR, actually, the one that sticks vividly for me was at Gamescom. Last year, I got a chance to test out Eve Valkyrie in Oculus HD. And they had like 8 of the only 18 available at the time kind of Oculus Rift headsets there. And it was probably one of the most amazing immersive experiences I have ever had in a game in my life. However, I also recognize that you need to have a very specific type of game if you are going to be doing Oculus integration or VR integration. It's kind of silly to put it into certain games and really, really beneficial to put it into other games. But what really shocked me, now, as you can see, I wear glasses. These are prescription glasses, and they are tinted a yellow color specifically because of the fact that I have a pigmental dysplasia. And I just need something
are you
to
long
help.
or short-sighted?
I'm nearsighted. But, you know, the color in your eye?
Mm-hmm.
That pigment, that's flaking off in my eyes. So even though my pupil will dilate to try to prevent light, because of the fact that it's got holes in my pigment, I still get light in, which is why I wear the tinted color glasses. So insight into my life. And I was amazed by the fact that the Oculus sat comfortably on my glasses. I didn't feel like I was being smushed or my glasses were going to break because they were going to be pushed back by my head. And I didn't notice any real difference, because usually your peripheral vision gets kind of screwed up if you're wearing glasses versus, say, contacts. And I didn't notice any problem in any way, shape, or form. However, I had a friend of mine, some people may know from MMOBuff, who also did the Eve Valkyrie thing. And might I add, I beat him in the dogfights, just saying. But he is almost blind in one eye. And he still enjoyed the Oculus experience. He still enjoyed the way the developers decided to implement things. And it didn't put too much of a detriment on his depth vision, which was interesting to me. Because when you think about it, you're right. You know, VR makes a difference what type of VR it is. You have two, I was about to call them mirrors. Look into my eyes. You see my mirrors. You have 2 screens and 2 monitors. And it's sort of like the 3D glasses. They try to, you know, make things 3D by changing the color of which eye is looking where and shifting and doing all that stuff. It's a very disorienting thing depending upon the type of eye problems you might have. Whereas another person who was with us has perfect vision and said the only thing that happened for him is he didn't really feel any eye strain, but he definitely could tell that too much usage of it would prevent an eye strain. Now, what I found funny to me was afterwards we were talking to the developers, and you've programmed in this, or you've actually, I should say, integrated VR into some of your games, and you've played with it and stuff like that. So I'm going to come to you directly after this. But they were saying that sometimes all they did was make one tiny, subtle change, just this very small change to the code, and people went from, I can play this, to, oh my God, I'm going to be sick within like a second of seeing it. And they didn't know why. They couldn't point it to, it was a shift of a pixel here or color difference here. They couldn't pinpoint it down, which I found really interesting, because this is a whole new science. Everyone who's playing in these different VR simulators and things like that, y'all are guinea pigs. It's great, especially in an open source world. But have you yourself noticed that with the things that you've gone to integrate VR with?
Oh, absolutely. The worst one, so the Oculus Rift targets 75 frames a second. Never, ever, if you have a bug, never wear a headset at about 12 frames a second. It feels like with each frame, your eyes are being torn out of your sockets, because you turn your head, and it goes blip, blip, blip. It's the worst thing. I cannot describe the feeling. There's no feeling to describe how awful that feels.
I can only imagine.
Get frame rate. Yeah, it's get frame rate. It's weird. The other one, to be honest, Half-Life 2. I've played Half-Life 2 most of the way through now on the Oculus Rift, and it's amazing. But lots of stuff doesn't work. So quite early on, when you meet Dog for the first time, hopefully you've all played Half-Life 2. This isn't going to be a spoiler. So when you meet Dog for the first time, there's quite a lot of what they do is they do like one-way sections. So you'll go down something, you cannot get back up, to lock the player into going the right way. And what you do is you walk through a shipping container, and Alex jumps down and goes, "Come on, Gordon." And you walk up and you sort of stop, and you're like, "Dude, that's like a 20-foot drop." Now, if you've not been on the Oculus Rift, I know what you're sitting there going, whatever, I'd be fine. It's just a game. When you've been playing it for half an hour, it is not just a game. You are there. And you look down. I look down. I'm like, I'm not doing. I had to sort of squint away and just kind of jump down and not look.
One of the things that I actually read about this recently, I said I haven't used the Oculus, I haven't tried it, but I have done a fair amount of research to see how viable it would be in my game. One of the things that I read somewhere is that a 1 meter by 1 meter cube may look much bigger to you when you're wearing the Oculus Rift, because you're so close to the screen, essentially, because of the perspective. And if everything looks bigger basically in the game, everything's scaled, even if it's the same scale as your original game. So say you've got a 1 meter by 1 meter crate or something, it looks like you'd have to do this to put your arms around it. I've been told.
Now I have to say that's not my experience, but
okay.
When you set up your Oculus Rift, you have to set up what's called the interpupillary distance. Get a family member to measure the distance between your pupils and put that in. You must be the right height. So I've done quite a good dungeon crawler system, and I wrote the whole thing. I spent ages playing it. I was sitting on. I said to my friend, "Hey, have a go." He put it. He goes, "I feel really short." And I was like, "What? Put it on?" I'm like, "No, that's fine. Give it back." He's like, "No, I'm just so short." And I was like, "Put it on." And then I stood up and went, "Oh." So what happens if you're playing a game where you're standing up but you are sitting? It doesn't work. Absolutely doesn't work. Unless your character is Professor X in a wheelchair, you have spent your entire life knowing exactly how tall you are. If you were to suddenly get 2 foot taller or 2 foot shorter, you will feel very strange. And this is not something I can see a solution for. You cannot ask a player to play a 10-hour story-based first-person shooter standing up. It's just not something you're going to have to play to do. Conversely, if they aren't standing up and they are actually sitting down at their desk, they are going to feel like a giant. You'll feel weird. On my Rift, I've had everyone from people who are 4'6" as the shortest person, and the tallest person was at 6'9". So that's somewhere between 1 meter and 3 meters and everything.
See, that's the thing. Hold on one second.
The tall person was still ducking underneath the doors, even though, because he's used to in reality, even though his character in my dungeon crawl was the same height as the very short girl who just said, "I've never felt so tall in my life." So it's a really weird sensation that you have to, and it's the most simple thing that you have to think about as a VR developer is how tall is the character, and does it make any sense to them to be standing up?
Well, see, that's the thing. That's where I was going to go with this. I think this is why I firmly believe if you're going to do any kind of VR integration, it needs to be in the right type of game. You know, if you, for example, and I think this is why I liked Valkyrie so much, you're in a cockpit. Your head is oriented to one place. Everything else is open because it's space. To quote Portal 2, space. So yes, everything is completely open to space, which is really, really, really important because it helps the bearings. And it takes a couple of seconds to get used to it. You have some things to give you a little bit of framework. You look around, you get comfortable with it. You can kind of get your bearing. But once you get it, it's like you, as a coder, as a designer and a programmer for how you would integrate it, you know the head's always going to be here. It makes a difference where their body is because they're sitting in a cockpit. So everybody's head, regardless of size, is going to be in the same exact place. No one's been in these cockpits before.
Sorry, let me get in here. This one. There was something that I watched a while ago, and you might have heard of the guy on YouTube because he's pretty popular, Mark Plyer, or whatever his name is. Yeah, he does a lot of Oculus Rift stuff, and I watched a particular video for an indie game called Alone, if you've heard of it, and it's a horror game. And it's a very short horror game, but the premise is you've got an Oculus Rift on, and I thought it was brilliant. You sat down in a front room, playing a computer game in the game, and you're playing a horror game, so there's stuff going on in the game that's quite scary. It's pretty primitive, the game that you're playing, but the room makes noises, so you're looking around like this all the time. So you sat down, but you're doing, you can see the curtains moving over there, or you can see, and it kind of reacts to what's going on in the game. And I thought it was really clever, even though it was simple. It was a really good idea, and I'm not sure how long it would last. I mean, he was quite immersive in it. He's quite a loud, shouty guy anyway. But at the end of the day, it's something I'd love to give a go of.
See, I wonder. I would love to do something like like an integration where you have you sitting there doing the thing, but it takes your camera and it takes the picture of you, so that it actually duplicates the room you're used to.
There have been Kinect things that do that. So Kinect things that look at you, and then you can generate your arms. So what's one of the if you know Ghost Phantom Limb Syndrome, if you're sitting down at your computer, your hands here, but your character has their hands here. You look down, and your brain's like, my hands aren't there. I know my hands. I know where my hands are, and you get some really weird sensations. The other one about Valkyrie is Valkyrie was done before the head tracking. So Oculus Rift 2 has this funky little camera that tracks where you are. Now, if your cockpit's this big, and you put your head here, you have two choices. You only have two choices. Either the character's head sticks out through the cockpit, which is bad, or the character's head locks against the cockpit, even though your head moves. There is no solution to this problem. You are going to make somebody feel weird one way or the other if they move their head outside the cockpit. You can't kill people either. You can't just kill them for sticking their head in the cockpit. I don't know the solution for that one. I really don't.
Well, the solution is design your games differently.
The solution is don't make the cockpit so small. Make it bigger.
Okay, but this has like a 15-foot radius. I can just walk sideways. If I'm on a wheelie chair on a wireless pad, I don't need to be anywhere near my computer. I can wheel back and I can be miles out of shot.
You make a good point.
See, someone in the channel, someone in the chat channel said earlier. Let me find who it was. Nuclear Beach, I think, and he said. I should really have found this before I started. He said, "Call me when the holodeck is ready." And yes. I agree. I'm kind of on the same page as that because I'm not a hater. I don't hate the idea of VR. I think it's a great innovation. I still maybe think it's a little bit gimmicky at the moment. I know there's been so much money thrown into it, but I don't know how it's going to fare because I don't know how developers are really excited about it. But can consumers still, will they be able to buy it still? Is it going to be affordable for people? Is it going to be viable as a business, as a solution for selling?
Yeah, it should be. They've got quite a sensible business model for once. They're going to sell it for $300. For once.
$300 is quite a lot.
$300. No, but it's always going to be $300. The idea is, as our technology gets better, they'll just ship a better and a better headset. $300 it's not that much. I don't know how much your monitor costs, but buy a 24-inch monitor, decent one, you're looking at 300 quid. and that does not come close. You're looking at something better than a 100-inch television for only $300. I think the real thing is because they have such an insane amount of developer support. That's what they did. They did the right thing. I don't know if you ever used like the Leap Motion controller or the Razer Hydra. These things, they never got developer support on board. But with the Oculus Rift, they've given it to so many developers. There are 80,000 people with the Oculus Rift 1. I think they've already shipped more than 80,000 Rift 2s. There are so many people who want these. These have got support everywhere, and that's important. So this means that when you buy a game, it'll have Rift support, and then you go, well, I've got 10 games with Rift support. I think I'll buy an Oculus Rift. Whereas if you've got a Leap Motion controller, I had somebody begging me to put Leap Motion support into my game Amputee because they're like, I haven't got any game support to be quite good. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm not going to waste a week of my life putting a support in for the 9 people who bought one. So I think they have the weight of support that will make this a success. And if they didn't, it would have died immediately.
Well, see, I look at it from... sorry. I was going to say,
I shall remain skeptical about it. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, see, this is the thing. One of the things that drives innovation when it comes to technology, at least in my opinion, and feel free to tell me I'm wrong, is freedom of information. It's one of the reasons why we do the Datamine show. It allows developers to share developer concepts, ideas. It allows us to talk our frustrations out because, hey, we're group therapy for the independent developer. But, you know, what it comes down to me, is when you create any kind of application and you offer any form of API, it makes no difference whether you're doing a full-blown SDK, whatever you are planning on doing. If you offer it and it is done well, and then it starts every time you update it, like the DK2, which is the newest one that's come out for Oculus Rift, has Unity integration. I mean, they're starting to recognize the types of developers who are using it and building into the API, and then having other applications that are just generally used have built-in modules and plugins that will automatically work. And they're working together, and that is what's going to really drive the success in this. And I have to say, Nickany, sorry, it was you had to say that, and yeah, that's the way it works. And yes, I do know, if you look over there, they're in the wrong places, but you know, it happens. No, there you go.
Whatever. Call me Adam.
Okay, so if you know this kind of information is out there, Chris, are you still going to remain skeptical forever? What would be your proof point?
Don't get me wrong. I will never dismiss anything unless I see proof that it's not going to work. You know, I'm more than happy with it. It's just when I look at game development, I'm looking at it from my perspective, from what I'm doing at the moment. I'm doing a game that twists and turns the camera a fair amount and moves the camera independently of the player's body as well. So it would be extremely difficult for me to implement it in my game at the moment. When I look at these horror type games, these atmospheric games that are much more immersive and make you emotional in some way, that's what that's the kind of thing that I think it applies to at the moment. When they get the tech to the point that it is usable for some, for FPS games or for, I don't know, maybe RTS games, I don't know, it might be useful in that situation. You might feel a little bit more like God. I don't know. It might be what you can.
Win, and I shove thee across the board. Go.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't actually think of another decent use for them apart from things like training. In real life training army troops and things like that, because they actually do use VR for training the Navy SEALs and other things like that. They also use them for driving simulators for kind of getting people better at driving before they take the test. They use it for rehabilitating disabled drivers, things like that. There's a lot of uses for VR, but when it comes to the game side, I'm skeptical's the wrong word. I think I'm just going to be a bit standoffish for a while. I think personally, because again, it's a time thing with me though more than anything. He said, I don't want to invest too much time in it right now. I've always been a late adopter as well when it comes to consumer technology. I wait a little bit until it's, I never upgrade my operating system until I'm sure that all the right patches have been applied and things like that.
Are you still on Windows 98?
Sorry?
Are you still on Windows 98?
No, I'm on Windows 7 and I refuse to go to 8 at the moment because maybe now it seems to be quite patch bad. I still don't like the interface. Another topic entirely, anyway.
Yeah, I was about to say, we're not getting into that because that brings me up some security issues, and I will go off, and the show will never end.
Well, I think, so, in summary, there are lots of uses for VR, but at the moment, I'm not sold on the game front yet. And if someone shows me, if I do try one at some point, and someone shows me a game that it really works with, I'll probably be sold. But I still need, I'm staying off it purposefully.
The interesting thing really is that game designers are going to have to rethink the type of game. So I don't know if you've played Borderlands 2. So I love Borderlands 2. It's a great game.
Fun.
But Josie's gone silent.
I was letting you talk. Okay. I just said that was a great game. I love that game so much. But what about the cakes we were gonna bake?
Okay, so the problem with Borderlands 2, if I was to take Borderlands 2 game, let's do a VR version, is it's too intense. It is an insane game. They throw so much stuff at the screen. Now, in the dungeon crawl I've written, there's one point where you go into a room, and it's a glowing red room, and you walk up to the bridge, and the bridge collapses away, and there's about a 30-meter drop. And then there's just a windy path that you walk along. And I've shown 2,000 or 3,000 people this demo on my Rift, and 10, maybe 20% of them looked down, stopped, went, yeah, not doing that. This, they're not unhappy. They go, this is brilliant, I love it, but I cannot do it. If you get vertigo, it gets triggered by the Oculus Rift. There's a very interesting thread on the Rift forums about developing stuff, and they said, look, so if you've got a bit where you're walking along and there's a rickety swaying bridge over a 100-meter drop into lava and dragons firing bubbles, you may need to add in the option for players to skip this because it is too intense. The three things I hear endlessly. I want to play a cylinder game on the Oculus Rift. No, you don't. When you realize all the terrifying goes away by taking off the headset, you will take off the headset. I want to play Mirror's Edge. No, you don't. You will run up to the first building. Problem. You'll look down. You go like, nope. You can deliver your own package. I'm not doing it. And the other one is Battlefield. I want to play Battlefield. I want to play Call of Duty. Like, dude, are you in the army? Oh no. Have you ever been in a war? No. Or a battle? No. I've used the Oculus Rift. When the Oculus Rift is tuned, it is real. It is like you are there. The last thing you want to be is in a war. You will put the headset on and you will cower at the back in the corner going, don't let anybody find me. This is just horrible.
Is this really wrong? But the only reason that I would get an Oculus Rift is to see my wife squirm watch it playing horror games because I'd love to see a reaction to it.
She'll take it off. It's that simple. If you had like a giant spider like walking all over you, you flick it off. You don't just go, oh, that's really horrible. Oh, there's a giant spider on me. Once you realise you take your Oculus Rift off, it goes away. You take it off.
Well, one could say...
It's your mind.
Well, that's the thing. One could say all you have to do is click exit on the game and the same thing happens. But it's not like that at all, believe me. And I want to pull something from the chat. LaxDLL said, War Thunder with Oculus is epic as hell. Now, this goes back to what I was saying. If you spend all your time sitting sort of in a cockpit, and War Thunder is kind of like this fighter PvP type-esque game, it's a different concept. And what you may have missed, what we were talking about is height ratio or height barriers and things like that. It's one of those things that it can be made for it, and it can be really rich and amazing. And so far, literally, the only things that I can think of are where your character is sort of in a static position, and it's your head that really does the turning. So cockpits, sitting in car seats, anything that doesn't put too much strain on what's really, really real. Because if you've never been in space before, doing Oculus Rift in space is fine because you don't have object of reference in your memory or any of your synapses haven't built up how to try to quick respond to those things. You don't have that. So
interesting. Of all the games I've played, and I've played everything with Oculus Rift for, the best one that I didn't write, of course, is Euro Truck Simulator 2.
Oh,
I can believe it. I can believe it.
Oh, no, wait, Chris, have you played Euro Truck Simulator 2? Have you actually played it?
No, I haven't. Sorry, but simulators...
No. It's an insidious and brilliant game lurking. So, it's a computer game. So you drive around and you drive the truck around. You've got to drive the truck from A to B. Fine. Oh my god, that's so boring as shit. It's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Once you have been driving with your load for 12 minutes and you're nearly at your destination, there's no quick save when you're driving. You stop pissing about and suddenly you're taking the corners slowly. You're like, no, it's going. Oh no, it's fine. It's a brilliant game and it hides. Honestly, it's one of the most fun games I've ever played. Genuinely, it really is. But on the Rift, it's brilliant. Because you're there, you're in a cockpit, you're there, got steering wheel, pedals, look around, and you actually get, with the Rift 2, you actually get to look around, and you check your wing mirrors, and suddenly it's really, really good fun.
I think I'm starting to get the kind of geek that you are, and the start of the kind of games that you like playing from watching your stream.
Okay. Now, see, I'll be honest with you. If I could get Oculus Rift support and get an Oculus Rift myself to play with for Goat Simulator, I would get it, because it would be so much fun to see my tongue flinging everywhere and flying
That
everywhere.
probably wouldn't work, though, because that's a third-person camera game, isn't it?
It is. You would have to go
And
first person.
They don't work. I've done a lot of trials of different things. First-person games, racing games, FPS games work very well. A kind of an isometric God-style cam also works very well, as long as... but the problem is you do kind of feel like you are looking down, and you do feel like you're going to fall. Third person just doesn't work. I can describe it.
You feel too disconnected from it.
Yeah, you feel like you're on the end of an invisible pole from the person who's there, and you're sort of being dragged around. So it's it's very, very odd.
Marionette.
Odd sensation.
A marionette sensation.
Before we move too far away from it, I've just posted a link into the chat it's Oculus's. They did an article about how to best approach as a developer the VR sickness stuff. I know we're a bit past that, but I thought I'd mention it.
It's well worth having it in there. Make sure you put it in the show notes as well, so I can throw it into the stuff. We've had a couple of questions come in, and I'm going to go back and pull them, and we've kind of started to already answer them. But we have Zumba Pup. Hey Zumba, it is lovely to see you again. I have missed you. But Zumba Pup says, I wonder if making a suit kind of device that you can use would fool your brain into allowing normal movement that is slightly removed. Not clear on that one.
With haptic feedback, maybe.
Yeah, there are a bunch of them already. There's the Omni Ring, is it called? The Omni Treadmill, but that doesn't work for the simple reason that my Oculus Rift is on the end of a cable, and you'll end up wrapping it around your neck and killing yourself. That's the biggest drawback to all of the solutions. Yes,
I saw a haptic feedback suit, or at least it was a torso suit. I think I can't remember the name of it now, but it was you could you plugged it into something like Call of Duty, and it would hit you as you got hit with bullets.
Yes, yeah.
Which is quite a cool little thing.
You could get one of those back on the Mega Drive. It just used the bass frequencies and it had a speaker here and a speaker here, and you went every time you got hit. It was awful because if you had music with a kick drum, it just go boom, boom, boom every time it works.
Oh, see, I guess that's a good way to learn how to dodge in a game. Nuclear Bleach, not beach, but Nuclear Beach has asked, I'm trying to think of a type of game that would not integrate with a VR system, but even as a third-person camera control, I could see it as a more convenient than discrete camera controls. What kind of games do you think would not translate well? Now, we were just talking about this whole third-person concept, and, I mean, Nuclear Bleach here is talking about this sort of concept where you recognize, or it basically goes back to what you were saying, Adam, so I'm going to throw it back to you real quick.
I mean, it's a very different story between won't work and doesn't work well. Everything will work. There is no game that will not work on the Oculus. The thing is, it doesn't work very well. This is something with Fortress Craft I found. The weirdest things don't work. For instance, you're playing in a game, it's similar to Minecraft in the sense that you've got 1 meter box. Jumping up 1 meter block is the most horrible feeling in the world. First person or third person. Third person's worse, but with first person, if I press spacebar and I jump about 3.5 feet up, just over 1 meter onto the block, you kind of feel a bit nauseous, and then lots of jumping, you're like, just feels horrible.
You can't remove one of the most important parts of a game, jumping.
I know. But okay, so from I have a dungeon crawler. I will see if I can find a link to it. And one of the problems with it, I started it off to kind of explore what worked, what didn't work in the Oculus Rift. Because when I first got my Oculus Rift, I did everything, put it on, and I was like, oh my god, I feel so sick. Now, when I say I feel sick, I don't just mean, oh, I feel a bit queasy. I mean, I wanted to die. I did not want to live anymore. I laid on the sofa and I clutched my stomach for hours. It was horrible. I would not wish VR stick as my worst enemy, and I'm like, oh my god, no. This thing is amazing. I've paid 300 quid. I cannot use it. I'm not capable of using it. I get motion sickness. Oh my god. And then I had a friend over and he was playing with it, and he's like, that's so cool. And then he's like, I'm not getting any sickness. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then he was like, can we play Warcraft on it? And I said, no, sadly we can't, because Warcraft has no support. And he's like, oh, and I was like, I tell you what though, let's find a way to rip the maps out of Warcraft. So we downloaded a program to rip the maps out of Warcraft, pop them into Unity, add the VR thing, add some lights, done. I am one of the few people in the world who has not just played Stockades. I have walked around Stockades. I have walked around Molten Core going, this is amazing. And then I realized when I was walking around Stockades, I didn't feel sick. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And then I began to narrow it down to a number of factors that contribute to you feeling sick. Now, if your game has one of these things, you'll be fine. If your game has many of these things repeatedly, it builds up the nausea. Running fast is bad. Running backwards is absolutely awful. You'll feel just, ugh. Jumping is bad, and the weird one, turning is bad. So if you're playing on a joypad, you look down the corridor and you go, I'll go down that way, and then you turn the joypad left to turn your character left, and then your head stays straight, but you don't turn in your chair. So what actually happens is your character does that. So you do that, and then you do that. And that feeling is horrible. And again, there's no solution. Driving games work brilliantly on that one because, in a driving game, most people drive and you have the paradigm that this alters your base camera view and your head tweaks on top of that one. Now, any of your game can do any of these things. If your game involves lots of jumping, heights, running backwards, and turning a lot, people will feel very sick.
Yeah.
The DK2 is a lot better for this, but even so, I use the Helix coaster, and I was blown away by just like the feeling you get, and you go, you've got to be sparing with the intense stuff on the Rift. You must, when you realise that, say, a tall bridge with a 30-meter drop can freak people out to the point where they can't play it anymore. Suddenly you don't need to have a 500-foot tall robot rip the building apart and start going in there at you, because people will be so freaked out they can't play it. And if anyone has not done the Rift, you are a skeptic. You'll be like, I'm fine, it's not real, it's just a game. I've been playing games for 30 years. And suddenly you're not playing a game, you are there. And that's a big problem, sadly.
That is a very big problem. And I want to throw a hat off to Guernicus, who has suggested that probably someone needs to start a kickstart a VR safety kit, seatbelts that can be attached to computer chairs and other things like that. Sort of like, do you remember the Wii remote having a little band on it? Because you would literally release your hand because of instinct, and it's just repetitive motion and things you're used to, etc. However, Zumba Pump wants to know, well, let's do Oculus Rift or VR on a horse. You're riding a horse. How would that work?
Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, I had to say, I always wanted to be a cowboy my whole life. I didn't realise this until I played Red Dead Redemption for a while. I'm like, good God, I've always wanted to be a cowboy, and I never realised until this point. I would kill for first-person Red Dead Redemption on the Oculus. Holy shit, that would be amazing. I have to say, I think it would work, because you've got the horse. Your horse is your thing, and you pull on the reins, and the horse turns left. And that works well. And then you're looking relative to the horse. Essentially, anything where your chair is like your...
Anywhere you don't have to have control of your body.
Yeah, where your chair and your ass are locked. If your chair is spinning, like the horse spins, that's cool. I have to say, I've got horse stuff and Oculus in Unity. I could probably actually try it, just do a horse walking.
I saw someone doing, it was on YouTube a while back, someone doing GTA 4, I think it was, and they hooked the Oculus up to it, and it just looked uncomfortable. They were dead excited about it, but it just felt like it wasn't, I don't know, because he was out to move around, and he's moving his head separately to his body. I don't know, it just didn't feel right.
Yeah, I'd like to be honest, I was amazed, because Red Dead Redemption did very well. Where the hell have all the other cowboy games been for the last 3 years? We've had none. I like cowboy games.
Well, there you go. Make one. You're an indie.
I have too many games
Lasso physics
already.
That was the main thing. That was the main thing about that game.
Yeah, that needs it definitely needs a controller. Another question that has popped up, this is going back to the concept of the nausea and everything else, and this is from LaxDLL, who says, "Can you fix the problem with IR head tracking?"
The problem? Which one?
This goes
yeah,
back
so
to where we're talking about the various different things where if you have one, it's kind of okay. But when you start, for example, Borderlands 2 is an amazing, but you have so much going on the screen. I think my head would explode.
I think it's tracking speed, isn't it? That's a problem.
To be honest, the IR tracking is really good. So one of the things that when people use the Dungeon Crawler, one of the things I said to them, do not, you see an object, do not do that. Do not put your head towards the object. So the way the human brain makes what you see is you glance around the world, and as you move around, your brain builds up an image. So if you were to tell me you think you can see everything, you can't. Your eye is actually painting around and building up this image of everything you can see at all points, and your brain interpolates. It kind of works like motion precision. So when I turn my head like that, I think I've seen my room. I actually haven't, but I know what's there from having glanced a couple of seconds ago. So in the Oculus Rift 1, we didn't have head tracking. When you moved your head towards the object, it gets bigger. And then it snaps back again, because my brain knows from 38 years of putting my head towards objects, when I put my head towards an object, it gets bigger. So my brain expects it to get bigger, and it does the interpolation it would normally expect. So you can literally see the object get bigger on the screen, and then my brain goes, wait, it's not, and then it snaps back as my brain then interpolates essentially the next frame in. So with the head tracking, it works brilliantly, because I put the head tracking on, and someone said about safety equipment. The first thing I did is I'm here, and I'm looking at objects on the virtual table, and I'm thinking, where is my table? Oh, and then I had to sort of move back to then smack my head on the real table while looking at the virtual table.
I imagine you could, if you get lost in the moment, though, you could quite easily jump up and throw yourself.
I've had people fall over, smash onto tables, pull tables off on top of themselves. When you're in the Rift, real life goes for a dirt nap, basically.
So we'll have another Wii controller thing when that comes out to the commercial market.
Yeah, I've already seen one guy headbutt the table whilst playing Portal. He's like, oh, bang, just smacked his head on the table and fell on the floor. So you will do.
I'm sorry. This is so bad, but I know because of the beauty of technology and how people always try to push the boundaries of technology. We are always going to have incredibly funny YouTube videos of people doing really stupid things with technology, and I'm waiting for that Oculus Rift thing. But the thing is, there are so many people out there who would take that and then, re-edit it, and this goes back to that whole spreading the knowledge kind of a thing. Someone would go through, bang their head, but what they'd do is have someone else make a GIF out of it where they're actually falling through a portal repeatedly, so it doesn't look like they hit themselves. It's just this repetitive motion thing.
Yeah.
And that would be absolutely amazing, but that's the beauty of the people that we have. All right, so we're getting closer towards the end of our show, so what I want to make certain that we do is, if you guys have any questions for us in specific, do me a favor, now start your questions with a Q and a colon, and I'll be able to pull them up. There is one last particular question that I wanted to turn to you guys and ask, and this will be what we use to round the show up on. So, when it comes to VR, do you believe that there are any myths that actually should be debunked right now?
It's shit. No, it's not. It's really good.
Okay, apparently that was really easy.
I think that's the best one. That's the one. I will say. I've also, if you've not used the Rift, I'm not joking. I have had 3,000 people use the Rift. I have had 100%. Holy shit, that's amazing. No one has gone.
But doesn't that have to do with how the designer has actually designed things?
Possibly. I mean, I got told my experience was the best one at Eurogamer, the best one at Replay, the best one at EGX. So maybe I got it right. But hey, that's what I got told. That's what people told me. But I have literally had 100%. That's amazing out of the Rift. No one has gone.
I haven't heard anything negative from anyone who's tried it. All of the haters have all been people who haven't tried it, like me, basically. I said I'm not a hater, but I don't even know what the experience is like. I can't get your excitement at the moment. I will try it probably, but I'm just scared.
That's a question. How do you market that? You cannot do television adverts, you can't do magazine adverts. How do you say to people, like 3D films, it's not like that, it's really good. how do you possibly
I think
tell this?
one of
You know what it is? It goes back to one of the oldest marketing things out there. And little tidbit for anybody who doesn't know, word of mouth is always going to be key. And the best way to market this is to put people down in a chair and say, tell us your story.
And they're doing it. And they're already doing that.
That's the only way you can do something like that. It's sort of, you teach people by proxy. It's how some people got involved in computers, actually, because it's, hey, I use it to do my spreadsheets. I use it to do work. Well, I use it to play solitaire. You get these, it's that whole, you're inspired by what other people do. Now, if they do it right, and they don't just hire actors to pretend, but if they get the actors or just pull people off the street, give them the experience, and then capture them right after they've had the experience, it will be a game changer for them. Because in the end, even to this day, I am still incredibly passionate about the experience that I had playing Valkyrie with the Oculus Rift, because it changed gaming for me. It was such a pivotal moment for me in my gaming career. Everything just changed. I went, oh, you can do so much with this.
Yep.
And it just sort of, it was almost like this door hidden in the back of my brain opened and went, ah. And I'm like, wow. So
the only thing that comes close, the only gaming moment that comes close is when I went from my 12-inch black and white television to my 32-inch color. That's the only comparable leap in gaming technology that I can come up with.
And what we've just learned is he takes forever to update his technology. Go ahead, Chris.
It was a long time ago.
I would say my biggest leap was going to a solid state drive on my computer. That's probably the biggest one because honestly, when I had that, everything flew on my computer. All the bottlenecks had just disappeared, and now I've got bottlenecks in other places. But anyway, one other myth that I believe we've already hopefully debunked already, but I thought I'd raise it now. Is that all games can be VR. I tend to hear people thinking, people who have got on board with it, gamers especially, who then come across and go, oh, everything's going to be VR in the future. But no, it's not. We can't do that. As it stands right now with the technology, only certain games, as Adam has pointed out, can be VR right now.
I think it would drive most of us completely insane if anything else happened. But yes, let me hit at some questions that we've had come in. Nuclear Beach asks, these issues you've discussed, do you think that's because of human physiology and therefore unavoidable? Or do you think it's something our brain just needs to adjust to? I remember my dad, who grew up on Atari, trying to adjust to an Xbox controller. Took him a bit of time, but he was finally able to handle it.
Yes, you do get used to it. My longest stint, I played Half-Life 2 for about 5.5 hours straight, and I didn't feel too bad at the end of it. When I started using Oculus Rift, I could only put it on for a couple of minutes. You do acclimatize. What you don't acclimatize to, at least so far, and I've been using my Oculus Rift now for 14 months, you do not acclimatize to the convincingness. So I've seen people like jump away from the screen and lean all over things at 2D. I don't do that anymore. When I sit and play a game on the projector, I'm there slouched, and the only thing moving is my thumbs, completely focused.
Do you not move your head around?
No, I mean on a 2D screen, I just sort of slouch and just look.
Sorry.
I don't need to move. On the Rift, again, back to the dungeon crawler, I've done that dungeon crawler 500-600 times. When I run across that narrow bridge, I have to ignore my brain. My brain is just tickling right here, going, if you fall, you're going to die. This is going to kill you. And I'm there going, it's not real, shut up. And this is after 14 months. So I reckon you will overcome the nausea, the disconnect. Hopefully the immersion and the convincingness will never go away and it will remain real.
I kind of think if they do it right and they get the headsets just right, they have a really good way to do one of my favorite styles of walking. I like to walk. Unfortunately, my back has completely demolished my ability to do this, but I like to walk, and one of the things I used to do while walking is I'd listen to music that was accompanied by a zombie invasion. And it was my job to get from point A to point B carrying products, and it just basically trapped you on a map, and when you got to a certain point, you need to speed up because the zombies are behind you, or you need to slow down because there's zombies up ahead, let me check it out for you. I mean, there was a whole bunch of integration with it. Now, imagine fitness with a VR set, where you're no longer just say, and I hate saying this, but playing the Wii badminton and the Wii bowling, but all of a sudden your job is to respond to your environment.
I'm sorry, what you've just
Imagine
described as a game, I can name that game. The game is called Imminent Heart Attack.
Oh, no, you don't have to put the zombies in.
They're coming. Hang on. No, my God.
You don't need to put the zombies in. That's not what we want. I'm going to quickly scroll. Oh, go
How
ahead.
about cows? You could do it with cows. Maybe cows chasing you.
Oh,
I mean,
no,
you have to
well,
understand.
see, that's just
You know,
you could do
have
obstacle
little
courses
cows,
for people.
and then far away cows. See, small, far away, small. Don't worry.
And poor
You can
Chris
do it.
has gotten very fuzzy for me, and now he's going a different color. Maybe my connection to Chris is a little flaky. I do apologize. No, come back. Okay, so we have, why do you think Facebook bought Oculus? Do you think it was for Farmville VR? And this is from Nick Henny.
Yeah,
They've pretty much already. They were not Marvel specifically, but they have admitted that they want to make it more social experience. So they're probably going to create games that are more based on, the PlayStation Home type stuff.
Wait, hold on. Facebook don't make games.
No, we know that.
No, I mean, you would not believe the amount of people who think. Someone mentioned Farmville. Facebook did not write Farmville, and you would be shocked how many people think they did.
They're a platform for games. They do have an API that allows integration, but they are not the developers.
Yeah, but you genuinely would be shocked how people think they do. I have to say, as a tech guy, I am really happy Facebook bought Oculus. Overjoyed. If Sony bought Oculus, that would be bad. If Google bought them, that would be atrocious. Facebook have a really good record of buying tech companies and allowing them to do their thing. They go, right, cool. Here is $3 billion. Make us some money and do cool stuff. They haven't touched Instagram. They haven't played with WhatsApp. Google, Apple, they buy companies. They strip what they need out of them and they disperse them. Facebook, for all of people's privy concerns, are a really good company. Facebook is completely open source. If you want to download all of the source of Facebook and do your own, they're like, cool, go for it. Brilliant. Facebook...
You're not going to be as big as us, so we don't care.
No, exactly.
Well, it's sort of like Wikipedia. MediaWiki, you can download it. Yeah. Wikipedia is based off of MediaWiki. It's giant open source, blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
So give it 10 years, give it 20 years, give it 50 years. At some point in the future, communicating socially with VR will be the norm.
It'll be the new webcams.
Absolutely. And there is only one name in virtual reality, and that is Oculus Rift. And Facebook they've done the equivalent of buying Ford in 1915, which is the most brilliant and amazing thing they could have done. So, yeah, I mean, people have said, I can watch my newsfeed on Facebook on the Rift, and you're like, they won't. There will be a new way of doing it. I mean, things like, for instance, walking around a photo gallery. So if you walk around a gallery, like a normal gallery, and you can look at people's photos on the Rift, that's really good. So you can look in, you can spin around, that works really well. Text, why would you do that? So, yeah, Facebook bought Oculus Rift because they are very, very smart, and they have a lot of money, and it was a very good investment. Very good.
I agree with that. And that's coming from a gamer perspective as well as a developer perspective. So
I agree in terms of the amount that they're going to that they've contributed towards it, and the fact that they will give them freedom, etc. Well, I think they'll give them total freedom, I'll be honest. I don't think they have... I mean, they'll get involved with the monetary side of things and the financial side of things, and hopefully the further investments, not just monetary-wise, like collaborating with other apps, collaborating with other companies. They'll open them up to that, even though they were already quite popular beforehand. Kickstarter was largely responsible for that, obviously. Are we coming to a close on the show? Because there was one other thing that I just wanted to mention.
I was going to go with a couple of other questions because we've had quite a few come in.
Okay.
So I figured if you guys are cool staying a little bit later today, we'll knock out the questions that have come in. Do you want to get your point in now, or do you want to save that for the final whooping?
I know we've done a lot of talking about Oculus Rift, but we on this show are very guilty of talking about one specific subject and not really giving everything else a bit of a chance because it's popular.
It's only episode 12. Give it time.
No. Well, I'm actually talking, and we've talked about this before. Specifically, things like we're Unity advocates, and we don't really talk about other engines too much. We don't really talk about other programming languages apart from C#. Really, it's kind of we need to do a little bit more of that. Anyway, before we moved on, I just wanted to say that there are a number of other headsets that I've looked up. Things that we haven't actually mentioned, and I know why we haven't mentioned them, because they're more casual. They're not like the professional side of things. You know, I'm talking about the Morpheus, the Oculus Rift, and one that isn't planned to be released to the public, but Valve have got their own VR headset that's internal at the moment. They're saying that they are behind the Oculus and that they don't want to release their own, but they've got one in-house. They're working on it, so it doesn't make any sense for them not to release it in the future. So it's something to look out for. On top of that as well, we've got a number of mobile phone-based VR headsets that you may all be aware of. We've got Google Cardboard, which I think is a novel idea. It's basically a bit of cardboard. You have to get the lenses yourself, and you have to use your own phone, and you put your phone in the front of it, and the lenses make your phone display virtual reality. I don't know how good it is, but I'm not sure if that was the first one or not. But there's a number of other ones.
It's a little bit like Google Glass in a way.
What was the 3D printed one?
I'm not sure. Well, I'll list the ones that I've got here, and you can tell me if either of these are them. Yeah. We've got the Samsung Gear VR, which is another phone one. It's quite a small one, but it still exists, and that is another one. You put the phone in the front of it. It's a bit more comfortable than the Google Cardboard, because literally having a bit of cardboard on your face isn't particularly comfortable, I don't think. There's the Game Face Labs. It's called Game Face by Game Face Labs, and that's another one that's got a built-in thing. Hey, it's better than some of the old VRs that I looked at.
No,
Cyberface,
Cybermind,
Cyber Eye. These are all the old ones from the 90s. Eyeglasses, that was another one from the 90s. VFX.
These are eyeglasses. What the hell?
FVX 3D, the Virtuality, and there was a number of versions of that, and the Virtual Boy, which was a massive failure for Nintendo. But anyway, the other ones that are out there now, the other VR headsets, there's a Game Face Labs one. There's a Durovis Dive, which I found, which is
that's the Dive. Yeah, the Dive is a 3D printed one.
Is that the one? Right. I didn't read that much about it. But, and then also I've made a quick note to say we have to obviously give a bit of credit to Microsoft and Nintendo, because they haven't entered that race yet as well. I imagine at some point they will get involved with that. Nintendo are obviously standoffish because of the Virtual Boy's massive failure in the 90s. The Virtual Boy was this. It was a portable virtual reality headset, and it wasn't. It was just basically you put it on a desk and you put your head in it, and you couldn't move or anything like that, I think, and it was just a virtual world inside it.
Interestingly, it used spinning mirrors to reflect the screen to the left and right eye, and it caused migraines and nausea instantly in many people. The interesting thing is there is a Virtual Boy emulator for the Oculus Rift that is better than the Virtual Boy ever was. So if you were a fan of the Virtual Boy but couldn't stand it, get an Oculus Rift and play your Virtual Boy games there.
Well, there you go.
That's what I wanted to say. I just wanted to give some other
that's
other
perfect.
VRs
It's well worth pulling it in. I mean, we're always going to lean when we go to do this show on the things that we have experience with and the things that we can give really good advice on. But we're also going to be reaching out to people that we know who do things differently and bringing them on and letting them tote the values of the things that they believe in. It's an open world in the independent. If what works for you, congratulations. And our job is to make certain that you guys are as aware of as many different options as possible. But in the end, it is going to end up being subjective. After all, we're going to talk about the things we're used to. Yeah. But yes, moving on to... Oh, go ahead.
So it's interesting you mentioned the Samsung, because the DK2 screen is a Samsung Galaxy Note 3. So Oculus have partnered with Samsung, and Samsung have their own VR solution. So the chances are quite high that they're going to converge, and you end up with a Samsung VR that uses Oculus Rift technology.
One of the things that I've seen when I've been looking these up, all of the ones where you put a phone in the front of it, all of the other ones that I mentioned, apart from the Valve one, the Sony one, and the Oculus Rift, they're all casual VR headsets. They're not for gaming. They're for putting your phone into and playing a VR game that someone's built on a phone. They're not going to be as high fidelity. You're never going to get, well, I say never, I'll take that back entirely. Not now. We are definitely not going to get a HD resolution on those at the moment, but we will when the new phones come out.
This in here, that is literally, in there is a Galaxy Note 3. That is literally a Galaxy Note 3 screen. It's the same fab. Yeah. So your You might have slightly less shadows and lighting on a phone, but
S3.
you're going to look much the same. What did you do to your S3?
My S3 has a cover on it that's starting to bubble.
Oh, okay. Looked like you just like smashed it with a hammer.
No, but this is an S3 to give you guys sizing. If you're unfamiliar with what the S3 sizing is, the monitor is here, and
it's a little bit bigger than that, but it's
and there's a picture of my cat.
Yeah. And apparently the Oculus is supposed to be coming out in 2015, isn't it? Someone just commented that it's supposed to be coming out in September.
I don't think that's a long way away. And to be honest, if it doesn't come out, they're going to miss the boat. They're going to get pipped in marketing. I've been telling people it's been quite likely for Thanksgiving this year, but they're beginning to look flaky on that one. They are going to get smashed on the way to shipping, because if I've done an Oculus Rift game and I've done a good one, all of the problems have been solved. If I want to do it for Morpheus or Dive or whatever, I can. The tricky part of VR is not the stereoscopic bit, it's not the head tracking bit, it's the user interface and the experience. So once I've done that, it works on every VR headset. So Oculus need to be aware they do not have a stranglehold in this market, and if it comes out September, that means I will have had my first dev kit for 2.5 years by that.
It's actually a moot point this anyway, because Zumba just responded. He was the one who said that. He said his Oculus ships in September.
Okay, see, that makes sense.
Well, they have to get to market. I mean, the thing is, my DK1 is a consumer piece of kit. I don't care what they say. I've used prototypes. Prototypes are boxes with things soldered in and things duct taped down. The prototype PS3 kit was astounding. The prototype GameCube kit had no earthing, so if you plugged a pad in while the thing was on, you'd blow up the motherboard and you had to send it back to Nintendo. This thing here, it comes in the most beautiful flight case. This is, if I bought this, I would not have been unhappy for 1 second. It is lovely.
But wasn't the first one very, very well presented as well, though?
Yeah, well, this is the first one. The second one, not
right, sorry.
What I mean is, if they had shipped this 18 months ago, nobody would have been unhappy.
You know what it is? This is probably their way of covering their butts just a little bit on the liability side, because it's not a quote-unquote finished product, which allows a lot of flexibility and patience.
But they've got lots of money. Are they now into Duke Nukem Forever territory?
Yeah,
it'll be better tomorrow. It'll be better tomorrow.
Hopefully, Facebook, as I said, they will be getting involved in that side of things, in the promotion and marketing and production side, instead of letting developers go, oh, it's not ready yet. I need to just optimize this bit of code.
I think in some ways it's the game developers, it's you guys, it's us who sit here and we're like, we've got a game, we're developing it, it's ready for it. Can we push it to product? You guys are the ones who have to push it ahead. You're gonna have to, bite them in the developer butt and be all like, mine. But now we're gonna move to more questions. So Ars Novax asks, it takes a person about a week to adjust to glasses that show the world upside down, so it's not possible for the weirdness of the Rift. So is it not possible for the weirdness of the Rift to fade with time? And you did answer this question, Adam.
I think so, yeah.
And although it was addressed to you, Chris, they did say, are the problems still the same? You're adjusting, and we did cover that. So I want to make certain you knew we did cover your question. And we just talked about how long it'll take for VR to become big enough to actually provide a market worth working in. There's one for you.
I hope a couple of years. I hope like at the maximum. Otherwise, it's going to fade out again in my eyes.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing I found is with all of the Oculus things I've done, something has been designed with the Oculus Rift ground up, very good. Something that's an Oculus Rift stuff bolted on, not so good. So this means that if your VR experience is aiming for Xbox One, PS4, and Steam with an Oculus Rift version, it is not going to be as good as an Oculus Rift game. And that means, from a commercial point of view, from a AAA developer, Oculus Rift won't get touched as a market as a leader. It will be tacked on, and that will impact your thing.
The thing is, you still have to
support your indie devs.
You still have to cater for, as a developer, you still have to cater for. It's like being a web developer. I have to cater for IE6. I have to cater for IE8 and IE10 and Firefox.
No, you don't. You write into your contract.
Yes,
you write into your contract that if someone has that kind of website, you will send them to a really crappy site with iframes, or not iframes, but actual framing, and you won't use any HTML5. You won't even use HTML4. You'll take yourself back to 1.0. I mean, Come on.
If you were in, look, I personally don't do front end stuff. I'm a back end developer these days. I do know how to do it, but I avoid it because of the IE stuff and all of the other compatibility things. But it's the same thing. You still, as a game developer, if you're doing an Oculus Rift game, and it is only Oculus Rift, you're going to have a very small market, especially now. I mean, there's no market at the moment, but I mean, apart from reviewers, that have got access to the SDK. But when it becomes bigger, you're still going to have a much smaller market than the larger gaming market, aren't you? So you're going to have to make your game compatible without the Oculus Rift.
Not necessarily. Being a big fish in a small pond can be very, very lucrative. So if there are 100,000 VR kits out there and you've got the killer app and you're selling your game for 10 quid a go, there's £1 million right there. Because everybody will want your app.
There you go, Zumba Pop.
So,
make £1 million. Send me
if
flowers.
There's 100,000. If there's 100,000.
Well, there are. They shipped 80,000 DK1s. They're not going away. I think they've already shipped more DK2s than they shipped DK1s because they've got a
really
app now.
80,000.
80,000 dev kits they shipped. Then they ran out. They bought. I forgot what the screen was, but they bought 80,000 screens. Then they use them all, and they're like, there aren't any more. They don't make them anymore, so they've had to go they've gone onto a screen, you see, which is in full production for a company as big as Samsung. So they've made sure there is plenty of lifespan in it. So,
how many of those 80,000 were for developers rather than reviewers and enthusiasts?
All of them theoretically, but I only bought Euro Truck Simulator 2 because it had Oculus Rift support. That was I'm like, yeah, I'll get that. So there is a market, and the majority of developers are also games players. But
of course.
The moment it hit, I think what will happen when it sells, it will sell out and it will remain sold out for 2 years. They don't have the clout of Microsoft. So Microsoft Xbox One shipped 1 million units day one, $300. You need $300 million in order to do that. I suspect they won't be able to wrap up production. I think Oculus Rift will be like hen's teeth, and you just won't be able to get them. And they will be like, oh my god, you have an Oculus Rift, and everyone will come around and they'll get in the queue. And I think it'll be good.
The old school LAN parties back when everyone had to take their turn playing on the various games. Yes.
At the same time, gaming is becoming less of a social thing. We were talking about this the other day, and I don't want to go too far into this. I won't ramble for too long, but things like LAN parties are dying out. Things like I'm not saying they're dead. I'm just saying that they're dying out. They've always been the social thing.
That's where I'm going immediately after this podcast, is to a LAN party.
Well, I go to LAN parties as well. I'm just saying that they're not as popular as they were 10 years ago,
I think the age range has changed, and people having lives and work. It makes it a little more difficult to stay up for 72 hours doing nothing but killing each other in the face.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and not just that. Not just that as well. People don't come around. Well, in my experience, anyway. I hope this is other people. Otherwise, I'm going to feel very lonely here. People don't go around each other's houses to play games as much as they used to because of the internet. In my eyes, anyway, they rather play online with each other. And when you say people will come around your house and have a go of your Oculus Rift, how much weight is there in that? How much?
Oh God, are you joking? I had one guy come over, bring his wife and like 4 kids and 2 of his friends because they heard knowing Oculus Rift. When I have people over for a barbecue I've not seen in a while, they're like, "You've got an Oculus Rift. Can I have a go?" Everyone has a go. Literally, there is a queue out my. It really, really is. Also, Chris, get some friends.
I was just going to say I'm going to have to sort the friend situation out, aren't I?
Oh, that's so big.
Maybe that'll make my friends come back to see me from where they've moved away from.
The interesting thing is, if you sit there playing like a local LAN and everyone's on the VR headset, it's going to look very, very weird.
It looks weird anyway at a local LAN. The amount of weird looks we've had over the years when people walk into a hotel, hotel function room, and there's everybody just silently clicking away. That's all you hear.
And you hear the occasional woo and the occasional you bastard and things like that.
And then an occasional chair flies over the.
Yes. All right, next question, because I want to get this one in. Ufdala asked, isn't doing a VR headset kind of going backwards? The amount of knowledge on how eyes and light works and integrating that info into video games. So the video games are becoming more real with or without the headsets.
Well, that's not the point, is it? It's the immersion part of it. That is the key to VR. Tricking your brain into thinking that you're in the game, and that's why people hit their heads off desks and elbow people in the face and smash light bulbs, etc.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if you take the most realistic, amazing experience on 2D, then put it on the Rift, it gets multiplied up by 1,000-fold. So whatever advances we're making in games these days, in texture and lighting and effects, they all translate directly to the Rift and better. Again, if you've seen like Avatar in 3D, a really good 3D film, or Gravity, you are a 3D believer at that point. 3D films, some 3D films might be shit. You see Gravity, you're like, this is what 3D was invented for. It's the same thing. You put the Oculus Rift on, you play it for it, you're like, this is what gaming was invented for.
Now, 3D I have experience of, and I'm not a believer. I've got a 55-inch 3D TV downstairs that I paid a fortune for.
It doesn't work, does it?
Exactly, it's pointless. Even on the cinema, I went to see Avatar on the cinema. It gave me a headache, and I wasn't sold. I was like, oh, look, Snowflake. Oh, right.
Did you see Gravity in 3D?
I haven't seen Gravity yet. We are planning to see that at some point.
Gravity. The thing is, if you've got 3D TV, you'll watch Gravity on TV going, what was all the fuss about? You see Gravity in 3D at the IMAX, you're like, holy shit, I'm in space.
Yes!
Yeah, Yes. We don't have an IMAX really close to us, unfortunately, so I've never actually been to one, and I keep meaning to get off to. Like, there's one about 50 or 60 miles away.
Come visit.
What, Odeon Blackpool is an IMAX screen? What are you talking about?
No, it isn't.
Yes, it does.
No, it isn't. No, it doesn't.
I bet you 100 billion trillion pounds that your local Odeon has an IMAX screen. 100 billion trillion pounds. You heard it here, guys.
You've got a bit more money than me, so you can't.
You know what it is? It's Monopoly. No. What you need to do is you need to make a VR version of money and hand it to him. But what you should do is you have a grate for the floor, and you should make it so that no matter how much he tries to grip it, the money is really slippery, and it falls right through the grate. And you can see him then drop down and try and pick it up. But on that note, okay. So here's the deal.
No, we don't. It isn't. Manchester is our closest IMAX. So you owe me 100 million trillion pounds.
We didn't shake.
Everybody, this is live as well. Everybody on the planet now knows that. We did
not shake. That has got to be the best one yet.
In that case, the website is particularly bad, because I googled IMAX Blackpool, on top it is IMAX Odeon Blackpool. So, also, on this particular, if you have an iSense screen, iSense is the equivalent of IMAX, where Odeon don't pay the license. iSense screens are really good. So if you go to cinema, do go to an iSense.
Right. So.
I don't work for Odeon.
We don't work for anybody. Ta-da! We're all indie. Ta-da!
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so here's the dealio, folks. Thank you so much for joining us as we discussed Oculus. We have a winner of our Gunner glasses. Speaking of glasses, and that winner is not you.
Is it me? I didn't enter. Never mind.
It's not you either. Because, neither of you entered. You could have had a shot, but you blew it. You didn't get in touch. But
I have real glasses. So...
There's no terms and conditions saying we can't enter as well, so...
This is true.
We could have done... Next time, Adam, we'll get in there next time. When they've got an Oculus Rift on...
I've already got
one. We get an Oculus Rift to give away.
Okay, you can have it. Okay.
I'm sorry. If an Oculus Rift sets foot into MMOBuff, it is going to be part of the game jam. There is no way I would ever let that thing go. I just wouldn't.
Oh. Speaking of the game jam...
Yes.
With Danny being busy now, what's the situation there?
Well, see, here's the thing. I've got several things to go over, and I am going to do my best to go over them in a timely manner, because we did go over a little bit. But gosh, I do love talking to you guys and listening to you guys argue. It's great. I bet you 100 million trillion pebbles and little things like that. But yes.
I live in Blackpool as well. How would you dare actually bet that much money? I live about 2 miles away from the IMAX.
Okay, so here's the deal. I am going to be sending an email to Advert Slaxor, who sent in a request for some amazing stuff, and they are the random winner of the Gunner glasses, and they're lucky because they're getting the Interceptors in orange, and those have just come out here in the UK in orange, and it is such a gorgeous color. But anyway, right, information that everyone needs to know. 1, next week, Adam is doing his hair in pigtails. He's pouting now.
I think I may have misheard that slightly.
You're doing pigtails next week, right?
Well, you want me to actually do my own hair in pigtails? Because that's just going to go badly wrong in a whole number of ways.
Get your wife to do it.
Get my wife to... So I need to get married and then...
Okay,
This is
get
a
your
lot of
girlfriend,
work.
get his
You're asking
sister.
for a lot.
Get some woman to do your hair. Get some... You know
Woman?
what? I know.
That's
You know what?
sexist.
No,
Get
I was
your
going to
cleaner
say
to do
get
it.
Chris to do it.
Cleaner today, yeah.
Get Chris to do
I
it.
would- He's in the Midlands. We established this.
Yeah. So this is England, and here's me, and here's Chris.
Yeah,
And
where
it's
am
bigger
I?
than like 8 inches. Oh, I don't know. Where are you?
I'm in Leeds.
She's in America, and they all think that we can just knock on each other's door. We all know John.
Yeah, England's quite big. It looks small, but it's at least as big as Texas.
No, I think
Florida!
it fits in Texas about 8 times.
Oh, okay.
Florida
I
is the
don't know.
size of the United Kingdom. Unbelievable with you two. But no, okay, so here's the deal. Couple things to note. Next week, Chris will not be with us. Chris is going to be busy doing something called a holiday vacation. I don't know what that is. So apparently he's going to be gone. However, we will
You'll
have
have internet,
Adam-
won't you, Chris?
I will, and I will be doing things, don't worry. I'm not sure if I'll be on the show, but...
Yes, we will have Adam, but our guest next week is John Kaiser from Digital Tribe Games, PR Stuffs. Check them out, Digital Tribe Games. So John Kaiser is coming on. He is waking up really early to be on our show because in his time zone, we come on at 6 a.m. And he has decided to wake up, have coffee, and join us. So it is going to be absolutely crazy just how bizarre and bonkers we're going to get. And we're still trying to decide on the topic, so it might be PR, or we might just talk about some of the oddest things in gaming history. Because we can do that. We don't know what we're doing, but that's that. 2 weeks from now on the Datamine, we have Joost from, Hust. I have to get used to saying, I am not good at pronunciation. I am known as the butcher of languages for a reason. But from Liquid Flower Development, they've come out with a game called Cube-1. It's on Steam. It is a game that they're putting VR support in for. And it is so beautiful. The music is incredible. And we are lucky that we are literally getting the musical sound genius behind this game to join us. So we're actually going to start talking about sound effects and how you pull together sounds and things like that. And a little birdie's told me that we're actually going to have some keys to give away for the game as well.
Woohoo!
So
Game
Swagzilla
keys.
is very pleased by this. Absolutely.
More games to stick in my Steam list and never play.
They never play. Oh, I've got both the Batman games and I've never played them. I only played it on the Xbox. And
I'm
haven't
a
even
Batman
run
game fan. I've played them both on the
I
on the
need
Xbox.
to.
Brilliant games.
So this week, going through a 1 week cycle in our shows. Tomorrow is the campfire. Not the campfire, the Cosmotronic. We're talking about WildStar. I may or may not have a guest, and it's going to rely entirely upon my back not completely sputzing out, but I am making plans to actually be there, and we'll see what happens. Magic, maybe. Top Draw is canceled because there is no way I could have gotten it done this week, sadly. However, do be aware Top Draw is moving to YouTube, so our Saturday is going to be completely free. We're probably going to have some streamers stepping up to the plate, and if you're actually interested in getting involved in that, get in touch with me at voice@MMOBuff.TV. On Monday, I have Lewis Lane joining me for a show, and I'm still trying to decide what we're going to argue about.
Lois Lane.
Anything. Yes, he's my best friend.
His name is Lewis Lane.
Lewis. Lewis Lane. And we've already done the Superman thing.
Oh, Superman jokes. That'd be a good idea. I didn't think of that.
But yes, it's just the LL, and we'll get him in, and he's going to be a part of things. On Tuesday, we have Tim coming back to us from Gigantic Unleashed, which is a fan site for Motiga's newest game, Gigantic, which is a crazy little game. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. Wednesday, the Blizzard forecast should be back, and then next Thursday, you get our happy, smiling faces, or happy, smiling people holding hands. Now that's taking it all
What,
back.
what
in
like
music.
that? So I'm sort of like look like I'm holding your hands like that. Does that work? It doesn't really work, does it?
Doesn't really work now.
I'd have to reach down there.
Especially not if you're wearing an Oculus.
No.
So basically, we have a heck of a lot of stuff coming up. As a reminder for the people who are interested in game jams, you need to get me the fact that you're interested in. So send me a message or an email at voice@MMOBuff.TV and let me know. I am going to be pulling together the groups, and I'm going to start organizing things over the next month. September is our 1-year anniversary. We're going to go crazy. We're going to give away stuff. We're going to have a party. You're definitely going to want to be there. So plan for it, and there might be a game jam announcement for dates and all that other stuff as well in September. And other than that, have fun, be merry, be excellent to each other, and I'll totally get sued for infringement for using that term. But be
It's okay.
nice.
He's dead. You can
No,
get
it's
away.
all right. That film, yeah, is now out of
Excellent.
copyright by now.
Oh, but come on. Oh, no. Oh, come on. If we ever
About
want to get
75
into a
years or
discussion
something.
about IP and copyright, let me know, because I did my
I do.
dissertation on it, and I was just like, and there's some things I have problems with, and there's some things I'm okay with. And there's actually a quote
I also
that
have a
friend
fair
mine
amount of IP
says.
stuff.
Well, a friend of mine has said, and I truly believe in some respects they are onto something, Mickey Mouse killed copyright.
Mm.
And I just have to sit back and I went, yeah.
Disney in general are
But-
very, very guilty of stealing a lot of copyright stuff, but that's a subject in a...
Well, it's a whole nother ballpark, considering the fact copyright in the
Well,
United
that's-
States
that-
like 90 years, even after death
Well,
or something.
That's why I like to wear basically illegal T-shirts like this, because this is obviously
Great!
my name is Totoro, but
And
Just
it
swing
was
the
so
show.
lovely knowing you guys. As we get ripped off the air, it is obvious, you know. that-
illegal T-shirts.
Sad face. And you're wearing a Jack Daniels t-shirt. Wow, we're just doing great. My t-shirt
Yeah,
today
that's fine.
is
That's fine.
this.
If it's any consolation, I don't actually drink Jack Daniels, so I don't like it. It's not my kind of drink.
Oh, but I do like Totoro and How to Train Your Dragon, so I'm supporting my closed down studio and DreamWorks.
Okay, so not only are we independent developers, apparently we're revolutionists as well.
Yeah.
The revolution! And,
Fight the power! Sorry.
hack the planet! Okay, sorry, it was a VR
Wow, you are showing your age now.
It was so cool. She's like, yeah, man, it's got 64 megs of RAM, and I'm sitting there going, ooh. I remember that time, and yeah. Anyway, on that
Lost me.
note, wow, that's okay. It might have been a little bit after your time.
I am only 19 after all.
You are 19. This is very, very true, and I'm like, what, 6?
Well, Adam said he was 22 or something last week.
Yes, Adam is 22.
I was 22 last week, but I've aged a lot since then.
You have told us, yeah, you've told us how old you are this week, so...
But yes, on that note, it leaves me to say thank you to absolutely every single one of you who has been here and who has got stuff to say. Remember, you can get in touch with us. You can have your say. And if there is a topic or an independent game developer you'd really like to have on the show, do let us know. I've had 6 emails all asking for one specific game, and I'm going to do my darndest to get my hands on the Star Wars Galaxy open source remake. Talk to some of those developers.
Interesting.
They have said, I've had 5 emails from people going, can you please get them on and just talk about what they're doing? Because it is such a fascinating concept. And I'm like, I'll try.
You should get them on before the cease and desist. You should do that.
But yes. So on that note, if I am well enough tonight, I will stream again. But it is all reliant on my back. It's nerves. Literally. And on that note, I say to you guys, thank you guys so much for being here. To you two in particular. You guys are a definite trip.
Thanks.
And Chris, if we don't have you next week, have a fantastic vacation.
Just
Make sure you
relaxing.
put plenty of beard oil.
No.
I'm just gonna,
I'll be-
we're gonna end it on beard oil. Beard oil. Ta-da!